California Sun Grower Services Hub Motor Steering Install. Today we will be attaching the wheel motor hub to the steering plate. The hub is mounted to a floor jack using the wheel studs and lug nuts. Roll the jack into position and adjust the height. Align the mounting flange to the steering plate. Install the 8 bolts through the steering plate and hub. Install the lock washer and nuts on the hub side. We use a 5/16 socket and a 5/16 wrench to tighten the 8 bolts and nuts. Be sure the hub is installed on the steering plate. Next, we will install the wheel motor to the hub assembly. Install the O-ring on the alignment flange of the wheel motor. Apply a bead of silicone to the hub. Insert the motor to hub shaft coupler, paying attention that the small end goes into the hub. Install the motor into the hub, being careful to align the spines. Push the motor in until the face of the motor contacts the face of the hub. Install the 4-socket head bolts and washers that attach the motor to the hub. It may be necessary to wiggle the motor slightly to get the bolts to align with the threaded holes in the hub. We use a 5/16 Allen socket and extension along with a swivel adapter and impact gun to tighten the mounting bolts. Now check that the unit swivels freely with no binding. Next, we install a new tie rod end onto the steering cylinder. Apply anti-seize to the threaded end of the cylinder and the tie rod end. Screw the tie rod end into the steering cylinder. Apply anti-seize to the bushings on the tie rod end and the steering arm lug on the steering plate. Place the steering arm over the tie rod end and the steering arm lug with the threaded holes facing down. Take the 1-inch SAE steering bolts and apply anti-seize to the threads. Insert one steering bolt in each end of the steering arm. With a 1.5 inch socket and impact gun, thread the bolts through the steering arm. Tighten until snug and align the one flat side of the bolt head is parallel with the locking plate. Install a locking plate to the steering arm with the flat side of the locking plate against the flat side of the bolt head. Apply anti-seize to the 3/8 inch locking plate retaining bolt. With a 9/16 socket and impact gun, tighten the retaining bolts. Install the 1-inch lock nuts on the steering arm bolt. Use a 1.5 inch socket and impact gun to tighten. Install the 1-inch jam nuts on the steering arm bolts. Again, use the 1.5 inch socket and impact gun to tighten. Thank you for watching our California Sun Grower Services training video on a hub motor steering install.